Good day, everyone. I hope you're doing well, and I hope you are all ready for this training session on AI as your writing partner, practical tools for content creation. I really apologize if you didn't get the email link for the Google Meet. That was very embarrassing of me, and I'm really sorry about that. But without further ado, we're going to get started. So, this training session is on AI as your writing partner. We're going to have a look at practical tools for content creation. So, what are we going to cover in this course? In this course, we're going to cover hands-on experience with AI writing tools. We're going to look at some techniques for generating ideas and outlines and structuring your work. We'll look at editing and refining AI-generated content and using AI for different writing styles and formats. Towards the end of the webinar, I'll be giving you a resource list with AI art tools, content tools, and tutorials. And throughout the course, we're going to be covering interactive prompts, examples, and projects. So I hope you stick with me for the duration of this webinar and training. The goals of this presentation are several. We're going to demystify AI writing tools and present them as collaborative partners and not replacements. We're going to provide hands-on experience with practical AI writing tools, where you will get a chance to sign up and log into several writing tools and try your hand at different prompts, seeing how they respond, seeing what is useful, seeing what you can take from the experience and what you can leave behind. We're going to equip you with techniques for brainstorming, outlining, and drafting various bits of content, seeing what it's good at, seeing what you need to revise and edit. I'm going to give you some strategies and suggestions for editing and refining your AI-generated content. And then we're going to explore how AI can be used for diverse writing styles. So there's a lot of work that we're going to be covering in this course, and let's get started. So have you ever been trying to write some content and you have your blank page in front of you, or you have your document open, and maybe you've come up with a catchy title and a subheading, and then you think to yourself, all right, where do I go from here? I've got this idea in my brain. I've got some ideas that I've put on paper, but I've got this block of getting started. Well, we've all been there. Creative blocks are part of the universal experience. If you're a writer, you're a creator. And creation is one of those interesting things where sometimes it works and you get into the flow and you feel comfortable, the ideas flow, the ideas are generated are good. And then sometimes there's stumbling blocks and you don't know what to do and it's all a bit confusing and you have these writing blocks. So this workshop is about breaking through all of those barriers and helping you generate your ideas and your writing. Before we get into the nitty-gritty about meeting your new writing partners, I'm just going to introduce myself and let you know who I am and what I am here to help you with. So my name is Quentin Sheriff, and I am living in Montreal in Canada. I used to be an international teacher, and I lived abroad in 6 different countries where I was teaching music, English as a second language, and I worked as a technology integration specialist. I helped 2 different international schools go from paper-based classrooms to laptop-based classrooms where every student had a laptop or a tablet in which to do their work. And this facilitated a need for the teachers to be trained, as well as the students to be trained. And that was part of my work, letting everyone become comfortable with digital adoption and learning new skills, new technologies, and new softwares. After working in these international schools, I emigrated to Canada, and I studied a second master's degree, which I did in educational technology. And a lot of educational technology is teaching adults and facilitating sessions for adults, like all of us in the room. So I've been doing this for the last 10 years, and I have dived fully into artificial intelligence and digital adoption ever since it came out on the screens and we figured out what to do with ChatGPT. I've used ChatGPT for several years now, as well as a bunch of different tools that you see here, like Gemini, Copy AI, Jasper, and Writer. And I find them amazing tools to use when I'm a little bit stuck, if I need to create some content quickly, like social media posts, etc. So we're going to go through these writing partners, and I'm going to just give you a brief outline on each of them. So maybe you've heard of ChatGPT. This is a tool developed by OpenAI, and it is fantastic for text generation and brainstorming and creating your content. Jasper is particularly good for marketing copy and for content creation, and I use this a lot for social media content and blog posts. Google Gemini is another really good text generation tool. It is part of the Google Suite, and if you have Gmail and Google Docs, you can also integrate it as a part of the Google tools that you use. I like using Google Gemini for more formal documents, such as the outlines for this presentation that I'm giving to you right now. And it's really good at putting in content, summarizing it, changing it from one format to another. It gives you plenty of other suggestions for useful ways that you can generate this work. There are a whole bunch of other relevant tools, and I've given you some examples like Copy AI and Writer. And if you stay towards the end of the webinar, you'll be able to download these as a PDF where I give you a big bunch of tools, a whole list of tools that are able to help you, whether it is for image creation, video, or content. So without further ado, let's get into it. If you want to use AI tools like ChatGPT and Gemini, for example, you've got to consider some different uses for it. In other words, you've got to come up with a strategy and a plan so that you know when to use it, when it is most efficient, and when it is most useful for you to add it to your toolkit. So strategic input is setting a strategy for how the AI will and won't be used. What are you going to use it for? And what will you not use it for? Operational work can be tackled with AI, where you can use it for boring, tedious tasks, and this will free you to focus on more creative and impactful efforts. Editorial work means that your AI-generated content can hallucinate, it can give you all sorts of wrong facts and figures, and you really need to revise and edit the content that it generates to make sure that everything there is factual, it is truth-based, it is not hallucinated and generated by the tools, and you can make good use of it. And then finally, legal and security is important. So I'm in Canada, and here we have different legal requirements and regulations compared to the US, which is where many of these AI tools come from. A lot comes from the US, and there is more and more tools and softwares coming from China, for example. And all these different countries have different regulations and ways of governing the AI. So you've got to make sure that whatever you're putting into the AI, into the LLM, that it is within the regulations and you are not giving away any company secrets and important work that should be undisclosed and kept private. So let's go into each of these in more detail. We're going to start with the AI strategy. So if you're thinking of the strategies of using these tools, you've got to go through. If you're thinking of the strategy that you've got to consider where you can use it well and what you can ignore and what isn't really useful for you. So when you're thinking of your strategies, you got to focus on the impacts that you're going to get from it. Where can you use it well? Where can you skip it? Where you can see there's a gain to be had from your AI use? Find some ways to see where it can be efficient and it can cut down on your work. It can fill skills and resource gaps. So if you're an entrepreneur or if you're a freelancer, there are areas where you can definitely use it. I'm good at communication and writing content, but I also find that I don't want to use the content that I've created for a blog post exactly the same way if I'm going to send it out as a social media post. So I could take my blogs that I've written and I could put that into one of the AI tools where I'll say, analyze this blog post and turn it into 3 different social media content for LinkedIn, for Instagram, for TikTok, etc. And then the AI tool is going to generate the reply and it'll generate it into 3 different social media posts. It can help you to communicate your requirements clearly, so you can go through the blog and you can say to the AI, what is missing from here? Consider this as a human being who's learning about communication and content. What would they need to know? What's missing? What else can I add to fulfill the requirements? Another thing that you're going to notice with AI is that it can hallucinate and it can generate errors and misleading content. So you've got to check your facts. And then finally, it can be somewhat mediocre and it reads like I was mentioning earlier, I used to teach in international schools, and sometimes when I read the AI content, it reads like a teenager's work where they haven't really spent a lot of time and effort on it. So we'll move on to the next section, which is about generating ideas and prompt engineering techniques. Prompt engineering is defined as the way that you can input your requests for your content and for the AI, and you tell it how you would like it to be generated and what sort of response you would like to get. So you're engineering the way that the AI produces the content for you. There are many ways that we can write different prompts, and I've got some here that can spark your creativity, such as specific prompts. So for this, I could say create content writing from the perspective of a marketing copywriter with 10 years of experience. You can use role-playing prompts. Act as a marketing expert who is working on artificial intelligence in the workplace, for example. You can use iterative prompting for refining your ideas, which means you start off with a prompt, you see the results that it gives, and then you say, okay, let's try that again from this perspective, or from a human resources perspective, or organizational development. And this way you have a chat with the artificial intelligence and you see how through the conversation you're refining your ideas. And then the last way that I use AI is to generate topic ideas, headlines, and different key points. For example, for this webinar that I've got here, I gave it the structure of what I wanted, I gave it a summary, and I gave it the objectives that I wanted this webinar to have. And the AI gave me a structure with the headlines, subheadings, and key points in each slide to offer. So it can be really, really useful for generating the structures and outlines. So here's a more detailed look at a prompt example, and there's going to be a few of these that I'll display in the webinar to help you get an idea of what you could use it for. So if you have your ChatGPT open or Gemini Google or some tool, try this. Generate 5 unique blog posts on the topic of sustainable design for a design co-op audience. You can try this out and see what the blog post ideas come out as. Maybe if you generate 5 blog posts, you'll see that 2 of them, maybe 3 of them are really strong ideas. And there will be some that you might have to redo or tighten up and firm up your ideas as they go along. Moving on to structuring your content, there are a bunch of different ways that you can get artificial intelligence to outline and structure your work. And the most important thing is to build a solid foundation. So start out with an idea. Make sure your idea is solid, what you would like to offer. For example, I want to write a press release about the new tariffs that the US is releasing to different countries. So you could use the AI to create a detailed outline of this work. You could get it to generate section headings and subheadings, and then organize the content for clarity and flow, making sure it's got a strong introduction, some really good middle sections, and perhaps a strong conclusion as well. Again, here's a really good prompt example, which I didn't use, but you can try this yourself. Create a detailed outline for a presentation on the future of AI in graphic design. Here we're talking about content, but part of the content is illustrations and images and how you can use artificial intelligence to bring to life the written content that you're writing about. Alrighty, so once you've worked on the strategy, once you've thought about how you can structure and outline your work, you can use artificial intelligence to get writing. So use selected AI tools to generate the content based on the prompts that you've provided, and use it to focus on generating different sections of a blog post or an article or a cover letter or whatever you need. Sometimes if you have a really strong summary ready, you can say, here is the summary of the article or the cover letter. I'm using it to apply for this job application, and here is the text for the job application. Use the summary and the job application to come up with a cover letter for Quinton Sheriff to apply for this position. And then you can see how the AI generates the responses and refine it as you go along. So here's an example on using typography in web design, and this prompt suggests generate an introduction, 2 body paragraphs, and the conclusion for a blog post titled The Importance of Typography in Web Design. So when it generates the content, it's going to give you a paragraph as an introduction, it'll give you 2 body paragraphs, and it'll give you a conclusion as well. You can try it for all sorts of different resources and different things. Once you've got your content generated, you've got to remember that it is a large language learning model, and it isn't a human. So you've got to edit it, revise and refine the work, and add your human touch and make it unique. So you've got to give it your voice, and you've got to really refine the work and make sure that there's no inaccuracies, that all the facts are checked, that the content is saying what you want it to say and how you want it to say, that it's correctly pointing towards the audience or the clients that you are writing it for, and that it's got the tone and the style of voice that you're also aiming for as well. So whilst it can give you quite generic content, you need to figure out what's missing from that human element, and then really put yourself into the artificial intelligence and edit it and revise it for your voice. So some points here to bear in mind are that AI is a good starting point, but it is not the final product. Often you will notice, like if you're on LinkedIn or Instagram or another social media, that the written content that comes from a human has got a lot of strong ideas. It is quite succinct, whereas the AI content can appear quite mediocre. It can be a little bit repetitive. It can be a bit simplistic in some ways. So make sure that you go through the content that it's generated and ensure that you've revised it. Make sure that you've got your unique voice and your style in there, and then fact check and make sure that everything is accurate, and the resources, the links go to the correct web page or PDF resource that you are linking to. So when you're considering different writing styles and formats, it is very good for changing from one style to another or one format to another. And you can use it to quickly adapt your writing for these different needs, clients, and audiences. So you could start out with something that is formal and ask the AI to rewrite it in a more conversational, informative, informal tone. You could give it something that, like a list of bullet points that might be a bit dry and boring. And you might say, I really want you to spice this up and make it more creative and generate something more like poetry or like what an artist or an author might write. It's really good at generating content for different formats. So I mentioned writing a blog post and then telling the AI to create different social media posts based from that, or taking a press release and you put in the content of the press release into the artificial intelligence like ChatGPT or Gemini or Writer, and saying, here's a press release. I would like you to write it as an informal post for a newsletter, and then it will change the content to be more informal. You could give it the outline of a presentation and say, fill in the content for these so that I generate presentation slides from the outline. Or finally, you could use exactly the same prompt, and then you could say, please give me different writing styles, and then you can compare that and see which writing style is more suited to what you're trying to generate and publish. So again, as a prompt example, I've got here for you, rewrite the following paragraph in a conversational tone suitable for a social media post. And you can take this prompt and try it for yourself. Take an original piece of writing, maybe that you've done in the past, and you want to refresh and send out again and see what it does. A lot of the work that you'll get from the AI, you might need to try it more than once or twice. You might need to give it a bit more stipulations and some regulations, like write this from the point of view of a learning and development specialist, or write this as a social media manager, or write this as a teacher for middle school students, and then see the different tones and styles and formats that it gives you for these different audience members.